Thank you, Albert, for the introduction. And thanks to the panelists. Hello, everyone. My name is Kristiana, and I'm here with. It's a bit loud. Can you hear me well? Okay. And I'm very happy that I'm here together with the three amazing panelists today, and we're going to discuss all things VC and how the VC world is changing, what's at stake for the startups, what the government and what the government can do. They can share good practices from their vivid experience. I'm not going to take any more time, and we're going to kick off with the first question. And my first question to you is a more general one. Let's start the discussion with an overview of the current landscape of the VC world, how it's changing, why it's changing, and what can we expect in terms of current and upcoming trends in the years to come.
I can start. Okay. Yeah, you don't have a microphone. Don't give him a microphone. Especially up until 2022, we marked like a year-over-year growth in venture funding, and the volumes and valuations rised up until that. But already, like the second half of the year, and right now in 2023, I think the valuations are becoming a little bit more reasonable, and it will, of course, abound a lot of opportunities for venture capital funds. But first and foremost, I think one of the biggest issues with that is the startups that have raised a lot of money in higher valuations, especially up until the first half of 2022. So I think, especially in growth funding, there are a lot of changes, and especially I think one of the biggest risks are there, and especially not only for founders, but also for the VC funds. In early stage, I can speak for our fund that it hasn't changed a lot, because we are betting on 5-6 years later in minimum. So we are still actively investing. We've raised our fund already. We closed it at the end of 2022, and we are still actively investing. So for funds who has already raised their funds, I think it's. There is nothing much change. Of course, there is of course a risk-averse environment, and the valuations have changed a lot, and it's also changing a lot. But again, for funds for ours, nothing much changed, especially.
Vedran, maybe you can share your.
Yeah, Albert gave a pretty good intro. 3 years ago, and we were discussing also earlier. Yesterday as well. 3 years ago, we were investing in a college kid, with an idea, that's gonna change the world. No revenue in plan whatsoever. Right now, I guess the industry has shifted a lot. I think in a way because it's like a waterfall, right? Before, you have a lot of unicorns who actually had IPOs at a couple billion euros, and this kind of dropped, like the stock market dropped, and then everyone's looking for the return. So for example, the Series A guys before that, so we're seed investors, Series A guys were investing, let's say 10, 15, 20 million, and now this has dropped to 5 million, and they're looking for more revenue. So I guess we also kind of had to step up, not our game, but step up our criteria, that we're looking mostly at the companies generating revenues. Because in a way, even though the guys for 500 startups, they're looking for a technology that's gonna be alive in the next 5-6 years. So they're betting on a long game. But then again, you need to raise for the next. You're gonna be raising the next 18-24 months, and looking for a next stage investor. And I have to take a look at them if they're raising. If they're gonna be looking at a company that's gonna do X amount of revenue, I also have to kind of shift my strategy towards that. That's gonna accommodate them as well.
No, that's actually a good point. Everybody has to shift their strategies, not only the VC funds, not only the VCs, not only the money, but also the startups. Biggest reason for that is if money, whatever money that is, wants to earn something today, you can either invest it in a startup, which is a very risky endeavor. Most startups fail, we all know that. Or you can put it in, 10-year United States government bonds that yields you 6% per year, and you're safe. Anybody who's ever had any money goes for goes for the more stable investment in that case. So the world has changed. The golden age of free money of 15 years that we've had has come to an end. It was inevitable. Now we just have to live the new reality.
Okay,
Maybe I'm not sure. I think like so the Tunya. I mean, if I run startups, they raised a new fund. Like last year, we raised a new fund 2 years ago. I think it was like the last time when, and there was a lot of new funds coming up. A year, 2, 3 years ago. I do not know a lot of funds that were raised the past 9 months this year because the interest rates have gone up, and then the LPs, our investors, are investing in some other alternative equities, right? Instead of putting in the VC money. So it's a bit of a challenge of new emerging funds getting the funding, but then again, there's a lot of funds sitting on a lot of cash, and they're kind of all looking at each other like who's gonna do the first move and investing in a startup.
And do you have something to add? And on the side, a bit of a side question: what does that mean for the Central and Eastern European countries? In terms of the economic uncertainty for the past years, how do you think this will reflect on them?
I mean, especially the higher interest rates, etc. It means that the global capital is backing out a little bit from the emerging markets, and especially again, I can speak for early stages that we've seen like a drastic change when you compare it to the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, and right now, because like we have been battling with global funds to take some share in a fundraising, and right now, like it's more. I can like strongly feel that it's with the local competition rather than the global. And also, I think I might imagine, and I think I've heard it from many VC funds that. They are actually the institutional investors usually are from the local ones and the global ones. So it's like I think 50-50 when it comes to the composition of the volume. But especially for the global part, I think it's a bit struggling for them. But for the local ones, it's not. So they can still raise from the local institutions. They're from local institutional LPs. But of course, like the other half for the global institutions, it might be a bit challenging.
Yeah, that also means that the companies will become more local. I mean, globalism is sort of over. I mean, protectionism is here. We all tend to steer away from United States and then China, not only in technology but also in money. So Europe has to regain its position, and that means that all these technologies that we've outsourced so far have to come back, and this is the opportunity for startups and then for VC funds here.
Yeah, I mean, I like to be more optimistic than pessimistic, like talking about CE region as well. Just looking back, 5 years back, it was mostly very regional funds coming here to the region to invest in something. Now we have you guys who did 2 investments right in Croatia.
Yeah, some already 5 years ago, I think.
So 5 years ago. Then we have 500 startups coming here. We have US funds coming here. So I think getting the so to be optimistic, there is external funding. I mean, funding from outside the CE coming here is becoming more competitive, I would say, to get the deals. Fighting for some of the deals. But as mentioned earlier, the bar is a little bit higher than it was a couple of years ago to get a VC funding.
My next question goes along the same vein, but a bit in a different direction in terms of all these existing alternative funding options, such as like the second equity market, etc. How, in your opinion, VCs can stay relevant, and what they could do in the most efficient way to stay relevant in the years to come?
I mean, I'm not really a fund manager here, but growth funding is something that VCs will definitely need to do.
So what we're talking about is this different typical alternative funding instruments, right? And one is the crowdfunding, and the second is the secondary market, which actually both of these instruments affect different investor groups. Of course, But I don't think it's like much more of a competition, but actually it comes as an opportunity for especially early stage investor. Crowdfunding, as Toomas said, is affects more for the early stage investors. Maybe it might create a competition, but also it might create a easier go-to-market, a quicker product market fit, because this actually crowdfunding, I can see it as a PR tool rather than a fundraising option. Of course, like you can raise capital, but I don't think like at least like at this moment, it's not like at as high as what the startups can raise from the VCs.
I actually don't see crowdfunding working in this environment. I mean, even the private money is as smart as institutional money. They will be looking for safer investments as well. Banks are now paying interest. But friends, fools, and family, FFF, the baseline of every startup, will be there and will have to be there. And they may even have to step up a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, can I? Thank you. So actually, for the secondary one, I forgot what I. No, kidding. For the secondary one, actually, it might create both sides, right? I mean, the early stage ones and the growth ones. And for the early stage ones, of course, like it's kind of creates an early opportunity to exit and then like multiply their money and then maybe recycle it after a while. For the growth investors, it's kind of give them the opportunity for optimizing for the ownership at the portfolio companies or the prospects, new prospects. So it's like different types of investment instruments, but creates opportunities for both sides.
Yeah, just to add on it, like crowdfunding, I'm not sure it's as popular as it was before, but I think there's like quite a lot of like CE founders or soon-to-be founders, and what we've noticed, especially here in the region, there's been a lot of new angels coming from the tech sector investing in early stage companies. So what's a couple years back we would be covering like pre-seed, seed rounds, like investing in those stages. Right now, they can pretty much, get from the angel investors who are mostly coming from the tech sector. So I think, just for comparison, I mean, I guess there were like past couple of years there were a lot of exits. So there was capital. There's a lot of private capital on the market, and now they're kind of in a way giving back to the community, but also trying to help the startup community. So I guess if you are a CE founder or starting a new startup, I would certainly go to the angel investors, who are still, unfortunately, not as organized as probably in some other countries. So there has to be a lot of kind of personal connections and getting to the right people.
Thank you. Let's take another angle on the story. So you two work in VC firms. You, Toomas, work in a family office.
Yeah, it's a family office thing.
So you have a very much experience in investments. I want to ask you in terms of future years to come again, and in terms of all these different types of technology, trends rising, where do you think the VC investment will go to, in which sector, let's say, of the industry, and why?
I have a rather strong opinion on defense, because a lot of money is being poured into that. Even EIB has now laxed the regulation on using EIB funds on defense sector. Unless it's lethal, you can now use EIB money, which is 80% of investment money in Europe for defense startups as well. And the clientele is there. Everybody's defense budgets are upping. AI will be a fad. It will be a tool in the long run. Yes, there will be some companies that will make a lot of money out of it, but most of them will struggle in a few years to come.
For me, I mean, I can talk forever about how AI and ML will change our lives and generative AI and stuff, but it wouldn't be like a thesis-driven answer. Off the top of my head, I think healthcare, biotech, and especially like democratization of these areas, I think this is one of the things that has been growing like forever. Like I think the last year it was around $85 billion invested in this area just up until that moment, and it will grow because there are a lot of unregulated areas within healthcare and biotech, and I believe that there will be a lot of these companies that will emerge from that vertical. And just right now, thousands of data is gathered from your phone, from your variables, and the velocity of this data is getting higher and higher every minute. And I think creating insights and at least build something on top of an infrastructure, providing that infrastructure, it will be a lot harder, because when you, for example, talk about the big data that's being gathered on websites and all of your digital assets as a B2B or B2C company, it's already been hard, and you kind of don't do it intuitively. It's very consciously you're clicking some button, or you're wandering around a website, and it's gathering all these data. But right now, without anything, without your conscience, there are a lot of data being gathered. So it will be at least 10 times, even 15, 20 times even harder to gather that data and make sense of it. And for small and medium businesses, it's really hard. So I think there are lots of room to grow, and there are a lot of unregulated areas. And yeah, it will be one of the most rapidly growing area, and it's been that way.
You actually touched a good point there, infrastructure. Now when I think of it, we have mastered gathering the data. We have been gathering data for the last 15 years for every sort of service, every sort of device, every sort of thing you have. What we need is a lot of hardware in the end of it all to process all of that. And this has been also one of the things that we have been relying on Chinese, on Americans quite a lot. And this will be one sector that Europe has to build up eventually.
I don't have a lot of experience with hardware like you do, but I mean, just going back to the sectors, I'll maybe say a little bit of unpopular opinion. Everyone's saying around, it has to be AI this, AI that, generative this, generative that. Well, we pretty much do not care too much about it. We still believe that, there can be, traditional businesses yet to be digitized. It can be a website built off WordPress that's just delivering, a great service that hasn't been pretty much digitized. And I think, additionally, not every company, okay, even though everyone's just saying hey, you should be chasing the unicorn status, which yes, is great, is perfect, and so on. But then again, we're okay, not every startup has to be a unicorn. You can still have a good returns without being a unicorn. So in a way, in sectors, we're pretty much, we are industry agnostic. It can be from agri-tech, it can be for marketing tech, travel tech, whatever. But betting on digitizing, the traditional industries is a way to go for us. Plus, talking about AI, generative, the future. Yes, we all know it's going there, but we're still not sure how it's going to end up. Even though we're betting on a 5 years technology over there. But there are a bit of, let's say, safer bets that you can still invest and get good returns out of it.
And maybe a very quick opinion from your side on sustainability. How do you think, how important a factor would sustainability be and the ESG for future VC investments?
There are no LPs here, but if you would be asking our LPs, everything has to be sustainable, ESG. We have to do reports and so on. Not sure if this is recorded or not, but
pick your words carefully, Vedran?
Yeah, but do I take sustainability into account when I'm investing?
Yeah, that was more the question.
I'd say mainly no, or primarily no. It's not one of the key criteria that I'm looking at while investing. There's some other factors which are much more relevant in building a company. Even though ESG is becoming relevant and so on, but
although there's unless there's a big red flag.
It is a red flag, and most of the EU funds, EU venture capital funds have either EIF, EBRD, or IFC as an LP, and they very much care about it. They report about it. But at the end of the day, the sustainability is not going to bring back the money, right? Well, we're here. We're a financial investor, let's be honest.
I would actually refer back to Albert's intro here. Financial sustainability is something that we are all looking at, very much so nowadays.
No, but I think we're talking about a different kind of...
I mean, you cannot be otherwise sustainable if you're not financially sustainable.
True, but our LPs are mostly looking at, is it,
Green.
green? Yeah, is it green?
Green sustainability.
Sometimes, but no, I would have to agree. Green isn't something that we see, or I would be looking at as a primary driver in investment decision. I have looked at some things that want to change the world. I don't know, one leaf of grass at a time. But yet again, the financial part of all of this is very, very, very difficult.
I mean, it would be a very big of a luxury to consider sustainability as one of the investment criteria. I mean, already early stage has been like the most competitive stage, I think. I mean, when you look at the investment volumes and the investment frequency in the different stages and later stages, you'll see that still in terms of number of investors that are interested in investing in early stage companies, still the capital that's allocated, I mean, it's the most, I think it's most competitive I mean, essentially. And it would have been a very good of a but I mean, you can still help your portfolio companies to grow for example, diverse team in terms of gender, race, and ethnic groups, and you can still help them. You can still provide them content, which we also do, because we also report these metrics to our majority investors, but also we also keep track of these metrics just for our purposes as well, to understand if there is something essentially wrong with the culture or their hiring process. How can it get better? We have a talent analyst who helps our portfolio companies hirings, not only for the senior roles but also for the junior roles. She supports these companies, and actually getting to know in terms of the gender composition. This is one of the basic things that you can do. Just checking their LinkedIn accounts and understand what is the gender composition. If it keeps going like that way over the 3-4 years, then there might be a problem, and you can at least start supporting these companies in terms of that.
Yeah, but in the end of it all, we will end up in the ages-old argument: function or form. Some of these sustainability things are done today for form, not for function, and this is, in my view, it's a problem.
But maybe a question for you: is this usually just in Europe? I guess you're also involved with US funds. I think like getting a funding from a European LPs, like the institutional ones, and I think we both have 500,000 and us have EIF on board, right? Or some institutional money, and every quarter, every half a year, there's more reports to be made for them.
For us, every quarter.
Every
if
quarter,
it's a half a year, I will have a talk
report.
with that.
So I'm not sure how it's in the US. I guess it's a bit different.
Yeah, they are all about function. Predominantly about function, predominantly about revenue, predominantly about actually making a business work. This is where Americans and Europeans differ quite a lot.
Whenever in an ecosystem, if there is not macro regulations or policies made just for that purpose, then I think institutional investors can get a little bit conscious about that and might request more frequent reporting.
It comes back to that, the same question that 80% of the money here is EIB's money, and if European Commission decides that this has to happen, then it has to happen. This is the rule for you guys.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk too much about regulation. I mean, this is our problem, but at the end of the day, if you get money from EU venture capital fund, this reporting is gonna be a burden to you because we're gonna outsource in a way to you. So just know, getting a European VC on board takes a lot of reporting in the while you have them as an investor.
Guys, I'm sorry. They sent me here because everyone else is embarrassed. They asked me to tell you that you should allow the people to ask some questions, perhaps if there are some questions, if this is okay with you, Kristiana, right? Yeah. Maybe I can start with the first question before I give it to the people. So I'm actually, there's 4 very different people here from very different backgrounds, very different geographies and stuff like that. So I wanted to ask you, if we take a look at, like, an example, blockchain, NFTs, crypto, and all of this hype that was like 2 years ago, and this is my favorite question, by the way, I'm going to offend a lot of people here. We can definitely see that 2 years ago, it was like, everyone's just pouring money there. It was really hyped up. Even we were thinking about doing like an NFT product that this has to do something with STEM and stuff like that. And I mean, we didn't go through it at the end, but if we take a look at the crypto ecosystem now, we can definitely see that, this enthusiasm when it comes to VCs, it is just, I would say, like, disappeared. At least that's what I'm seeing, So do you think, like, maybe each of you can give an answer to this, is the same thing going to happen with generative AI? Are we just going to end up at the same hype cycle in, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years? So yeah, what's your opinion? Maybe you can start, Toomas.
I actually think we will, yeah. AI will be just one of the tools. Some of the companies will remain just the same way with crypto. I mean, I would still hold my money in Ethereum or Bitcoin. They're stable enough, they're big enough. But Albert, that's a good question. I have a random number generator. If I generate 1 kilobyte of numbers, how much would you pay for this? It's a unique set of numbers. Pay for this.
Let me see how much more time we have. Okay, 2.5 minutes. So does anyone else have any questions from the audience that you would like to ask the people with the money? No questions. Okay. Oh, we have a young gentleman there. Okay, I'll get to you. Here you go.
So, question for regrets. If you are regretting in not investing in something, what did you learn from that? Lessons learned for the future?
For me? Do you ask me? Oh, okay. No regrets. I mean, no. I think no regrets so far. Maybe, I mean, when I think in venture capital, especially in early stages, one of the biggest assets you have is the information asymmetry, and sometimes it gets really tricky. And I mean, I think one of the biggest regrets would come from the FOMO effect that the founders and other investors like Vedran would create on me. But I think right now, because like our fund is only 2-3 years old or 2.5, I don't know. And right now our portfolio companies are at that moment they are growing and they have just started creating value. Some of them have their products, they're just selling. So there is no regrets yet, but I'm sure 100% sure there will be. But I don't think it would be related to the investments that you made. It's rather how you invested.
Yeah, we have zero regrets on past opportunities. We just think that at that time it was just not for us, even though maybe some of them kind of maybe skyrocketed. We do have regrets maybe in some of the companies we invested. Maybe we shouldn't have, but this is what you see later on. But overall, I think we did miss a couple of quite big hits, but overall, I think we're completely fine with that.
Yeah, same here. A few things that I've paused that have become very, very good. Some stuff that I've invested in have died for one reason or the other. I mean, that's with every fund and every investment vehicle out there in the world. The only regrets I may have is not taking a decision at some points and then missing out. These are the only things when you just think too long and you miss out even though you were considering.
I was going to tell, I think the biggest regrets would come from the investment, will not come from the investments you made. It will come from the investments that you didn't.
Yeah, but you cannot win every battle and you cannot be a bride in every wedding. It will be a very, very hard.
Thank you so much. Let me take a look at the time. Okay, I feel, we are out of time officially, but maybe we can squeeze in one little question if there's a good question in the audience. Any good questions? Once, twice? Okay, no good questions. So anyways, Kristiana, do you want to close it off? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much to the panelists for the insightful discussion. And thank you for the audience for being here. I'm sure we can continue with the discussions throughout the conference during these 2 days. Thank you.